بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We pray that all of you woke up this morning in a state of gentleness and well-being, that you are pleased with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala accepts from you all of your acts of obedience, and that you intend to make this day a day of obedience, a day of at-taqarrub ilallahi tabaraka wa ta'ala bil a'mal as-salihah, that you intend to make this day a day of gaining a higher status, drawing closer to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala by righteous deeds, pious actions. And may Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala grant you an opening among the openings of the knowers of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Ameen. As is my habit every Wednesday morning, that I have some reflections on the Black Imams Roundtable, which was last night. And when I have these reflections, I like to expound on things that were mentioned on the roundtable, whether by Imam Naim or Imam Fahim or myself, that I had a chance to think about through the night, and I need to add to them, or I think it's beneficial to add to them. And among those things is the importance of ilm al-aqidah, the science of al-aqidah, or the creed of Islam. The creed, learning about al-aqidah, the correct belief and conviction in Islam, is the most important obligation in Islam. There is no higher obligation than having the correct belief in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His Messenger, Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. as Allah indicated in the Quran in Surah Muhammad in the 19th verse by his saying, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. This verse, Allah commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to know, meaning to be steadfast on the creed that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and seek forgiveness for yourself and the believing men and women. In this verse is an indication to the priority of ilm al-aqidah over ilm al-fiqh. It's an indication to the superiority or the priority, we can say, of the science of belief over the science related to the practical rules of the religion. Because the command of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the command of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, no, be steadfast on the belief that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, which relates to the knowledge or the science of the creed, the belief. In other words, it's related to usul ad-din, the foundations of the religion. And then Allah told him, وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, and then seek forgiveness for yourself and the believing men and women. And al-istighfar is from among al-ahkam, from among the rules of the religion. So it's related to the practice. So Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala in this verse indicated the priority of learning the belief before being engaged with the rules. And it is related by Imam al-Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam praised himself by being knowledgeable about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala when he said, I swear by Allah, wallahi, I am the most knowledgeable among you about Allah, and I fear him the most. In other words, I obey him the most. And this is mentioned to show the importance of the correct belief in Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, because knowing Allah is to know what is obligatory to attribute to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala among the attributes, what is permissible to attribute to Allah among the attributes, and what is impossible to attribute to Allah among the attributes. This is our knowledge of Allah. Our knowledge of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is not an all-encompassing knowledge. In other words, we do not know the reality of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Only Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala knows his reality. However, as morally responsible individuals, there is a certain amount that we must know and believe and affirm about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And this is reality. And that amount of knowledge is a personal obligation on every mukallaf. As one of the great scholars said, that the first أول واجب على العبد, the first obligation on the slave, al-ilmu billahi wa rasulihi wa dinih, that that person has knowledge about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, his messenger and his religion. أول واجب على العبد, the first obligation on the slave. So it's not something we have a choice in. We have to learn our religion. And we have to learn the difference between al-haq and al-batil, between the truth and falsehood. This is our obligation. This is something that is an obligation on every single morally responsible individual. The great Imam Al-Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir, he mentioned this fact that it's an obligation on every morally responsible individual to embrace Islam. And to embrace Islam, you must know about Allah and His Messenger. And to remain steadfast on that and comply with what is incumbent upon him of its rules. So the first step is to embrace Islam. And when we say ashhadu, that has the meaning of I know, I believe, I affirm, I declare. So that's knowledge, that's belief, and that's the actual utterance. To what? The belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the proper belief, and the belief in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is an obligation. And no one can be a Muslim without having knowledge of what Muslims believe. This is not something that is permissible for someone to not know. So there are some core beliefs that we must know. And then there are detailed things that some of us must know. But among the core things that we must know is the basic things that are obligatory, permissible, and impossible to attribute to Allah. At the foundational level, every morally responsible person, and who is the morally responsible person? That one who is baligh, aqil, alladhi balaghathu da'wat al-Islam. That person who is pubescent, sane, and received the basic message of Islam. That person is mukallaf, and that person must learn the rules of the religion. And that includes belief, that includes certain rules among the rules of practice, and removing the blameworthy characteristics and adorning themselves with praiseworthy characteristics. It's far'ain. No one, that's a personal obligation. No one among the scholars of Islam would deny these things. So that's an obligation. So for us, when we're talking about al-aqidah, I'm speaking of us, the Black Imam Roundtable, myself, Amin Muhammad. Whenever we're talking about the belief and we're talking about aqidah, we're talking about that. So let's not let things get confused. This is the Quran and this is the Sunnah. And this is the consensus of the Muslim scholars, that these things we must know. And the reason why our scholars mention certain attributes that must be attributed to Allah, that you must know, like Allah is attributed with knowledge and existence and life and speech and power and will and beginninglessness and everlastingness and non-neediness of creation and dissimilarity to creation and other of the attributes that are obligatory to know. They mention this because this is what is meant by knowing Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. That's what is meant when we say you must have ma'rifatullah, right? knowledge of Allah. This is what's intended. And these things are not advanced. If you don't know them, you are sinful. And that sin is among the kaba'ir, among the major sins. And if you contradict them knowingly, you are not Muslim. This is simple stuff. This is not advanced theology. This is what every child must learn, and it's an obligation on their parents to teach them before they become pubescent. And when they become pubescent, if they didn't learn, it's their obligation to go learn these things. So this is not like advanced aqidah, ilm al-kalam, with the sense of advanced details of the branches of the tenets of faith. This is not what we're talking about. And I want that to be clear, because I want you to pay close attention to something. Whenever you hear someone say, don't talk about Aqidah, be sure that that person has a Aqidah that contradicts Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's a bar for you. Just observe. When you hear someone tell you, don't talk about Aqidah, don't learn Aqidah, I guarantee you, if you check deep into that person's situation, that person has a belief that contradicts the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And when I say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, I mean Al-Ash'ira wal Maturidiyya. And anyone who has a similar belief to them, like the true Hanabila. You will never hear them tell you, don't learn the obligatory belief in Islam. They will never say that. In fact, that'd be the first thing they're going to teach you. They're going to teach you what you must believe about Allah first. So whenever you see someone telling you, don't talk about Aqidah, that's an indication, clear indication, something wrong with their creed. They have something else. And you must be, just observe. Don't take my word for it. Every time you hear somebody tell you that, say, okay, tell me your belief. Tell me about the belief in Islam. And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they have some issues in their belief that contradict the belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And they may call that corrupt creed Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So let's not get fooled here. They may call that corrupt creed Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So here, if you study anywhere in the world, anywhere, you will find, and you get the main books of Sunni Muslims, you're going to see these attributes mentioned. In the classical books of the classical scholars, that's what you're going to find in all their books that relate to the creed. Allah is attributed with this. It's impossible to attribute Allah with the opposites of these attributes. You must know them. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're explained. That's it. Right? That's it. And they move on after that. The only time scholars or teachers are going to go in more details, number one, if someone is confused about the foundations of the belief, like someone is telling you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shared attributes with his creation. It's not a complete separation. Rather, the literal meanings that apply to creations also apply to Allah, but we just don't know how. That's a confusing concept that requires the teacher or the scholar to go into more details. So you can't let that just bypass. That's a deviation in creed. To believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attributes that are shared in meaning with the creation, and there is some kind of resemblance, but we don't know how, that's unlawful to believe. That is a severe departure from the creed of Islam, and it must be corrected. So the teacher, the scholar, is going to go into more details because you've missed a core foundational belief that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala does not resemble his creation in any manner, not in totality, not in a partial manner, not even in one manner. There is no resemblance between Allah and his creation. As Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, Laysa kamithlihi shay, that nothing resembles him. So if someone is telling you something that's going to lead to you making some partial resemblance between Allah and his creation, that is a notion that needs to be corrected. And that's not something you can say, well, it's just a different understanding. No, it's not. That's not permissible to believe. And you got to be clear about this stuff because this is our ultimate path to salvation. Don't say we're making it up. That's what some deviant groups are spreading among the people, among the common people. They're telling them these things. You cannot remain silent and just say, we don't want to debate. That deserves a debate. It's obligatory to debate that. You cannot let that bypass. You either explain it and clarify it, and if that's sufficient, it's sufficient. If that doesn't work, you must debate that. You cannot remain silent. When you have the ability to change it, to speak. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever among you sees a munkar, let him change it with his hand. Munkar, a bad deed, an evil action, something that contradicts the sacred law of Islam. That's called a munkar. Let him change it with his hand. If he cannot, then with his tongue. If he cannot, then with his heart. And that is the least degree of faith when you cannot do anything else. We have the ability to talk. We have the ability to explain. So if someone is perverting the creed of Islam in the name of Islam, you have the obligation to clarify that. And if that is a debate, then that's a debate. And you cannot shy away from that. How do you leave the people to neglect an obligation because it makes you uncomfortable? It's a religious obligation. Think of the great Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala. Imam Abu Hanifa lived in the place called Kufa, the city of Kufa in Iraq. He went from Kufa to Basra 20 times. And from Kufa to Basra is a 4-day journey. He didn't have a car. He didn't have an airplane. 4 days on an animal and walking from one place to another. He did that 20 times solely to debate and clarify the misguidance of deviant groups who were spreading bad beliefs about Islam in Basra, in Iraq. That was Imam Abu Hanifa. If you think about Imam Abu Hanifa, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, his books that have reached us are books in Aqidah, not books in fiqh. His fiqh rulings were not from books he wrote himself. What we receive from him in writing is books of the creed about Aqidah. And all of those books of Aqidah explain the same things that we're talking about today. because there was a need to clarify issues where people departed from the correct belief in Islam, which is the belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, in his famous creed, Al-Aqeedatul Tahawiyah, he wrote that book clarifying the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah from the creeds of the people that were misguided in his time, like Al-Mushabbiha and Al-Qadariyah and Al-Murjiyah and those other groups. For example, he wrote a whole treatise to clarify the belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. How do we get today and say, don't talk about the creed, don't explain the bad beliefs, just let us all believe what we want? And they don't even do that themselves, the one who say that. What they want to do is disarm you after they got the ups on you, to use a terminology that's familiar with many of us. We got the ups on you, we just want to disarm you. Don't fight back, don't defend yourself, while we just pillage your land. No, absolutely not. We have an obligation. Now, the way you do that is going to differ from circumstance to circumstance, but you must do it. We're not talking about how you do it necessarily, because that's, like I said, that's going to be circumstances and context, but you must do it. You must do it. And here's the point. There is beliefs in Islam that are core, non-negotiable items. I remember one of my teachers told me, and I want to say this. I studied and sat with a lot of great scholars, right? I don't walk around name dropping, but in my life, I've sat in the presence of some of the foremost scholars in the world in different countries and heard them and read their books and sat with their students. Like, so even if I didn't have a long time with the particular sheikh, this great sheikh, I actually met him, I actually heard his words, I actually talked to him, and I benefited greatly from his students, right? Many great scholars. So when I'm talking about these things, I can actually show you what they said. I mean, this is not like Imam Amin making stuff up. No, this is the Sunni position. Imam Amin happens to be a Sunni. I'm Ash'ari. Yes, I'm a Sunni. I'm a proud, dignified Ash'ari. Hands down. Right? They would have you believe that that's sectarian. No. So was Imam al-Nawawi. So was Ibn Hajar al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. May Allah be pleased with both of them. So was so many other great scholars. They were proud Sunnis. So this is not something, that's what we learn. That's what we learn from our teachers, with an unbroken chain back to Imam al-Ash'ari. It's not like you special. That every Sunni Muslim should be like that. You should carry the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah with dignity and honor. You should feel a nobility, the fact that Allah made you Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's not sectarian. That's how you're supposed to feel about the truth, right? And you should be able to clarify. And I think a lot of us, unfortunately, because of that onslaught, we might not have the nature to really take on the struggle that comes with clarifying the truth. Just say that, right? But don't block the people who do have that nature, who have that ability, right? I remember, I'll tell you a story when I was a kid, younger, I mean, a teenager. I had a friend, right? And I love this to this day. I see him. I'm so proud of this brother, mashallah. Uh, he was from the projects, but he wasn't like a guy who want no trouble, right? Good guy, nice, humble, you know, don't bother nobody. And then, you got this dude that always want to bully somebody, right? So it was a guy who wanted to just push up on him, knowing that he's not that kind of guy. You don't want no trouble. But you want to insist, you want to push. So when he told me about this guy, I said, you know what? I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about it. Right? I said, I'll take care of that for you. And so when I saw the guy, I said, you want conflict? I'll give you the conflict you're looking for. He was like, it ain't about you. I said, yes, it is, because I'm with him. And maybe he ain't going to address you and he ain't going to handle you, but I will. So leave him alone or we'll handle it. Why did I say that? Because sometimes people are just not like that. He's not going to defend himself. So you could beat him up. But he ain't alone. He got people who will defend him and don't mind putting themselves out to even lose if necessary. But you ain't going to keep bothering him, right? Follow my point. Likewise, it's some of us who just want to worship Allah as Sunnis, Ash'ari, Maturidi, but we want to do our ibadah. You want to, have the correct belief. You want to follow a madhab. You want to celebrate the Mawlid. You want to do your Sufi spirituality. And then someone going to be coming picking on you. You're a deviant. That's bid'ah. You're a mushrik. You're a grave worshiper. You worship saints. You deny Allah's attributes. And that's what you were bombarded with. But you yourself don't know how to defend, or you're too shy. There must be someone to say, nope, that's not true. Here's the correct belief. Here's what we believe. And we're going to stand for those who have the correct creed. You need those type of people. And if we be honest, especially in our communities, how many years have people been bullied by the Wahhabi Salafi movement? Masjids taken, imams thrown out, refuted. How much has that been in our community? And everybody just fold up their tent as soon as they come. Just be honest. Sometimes I'm like, come on, man, you've seen this movie before. And how many of you have seen this? How many of you seen, you're in masjids, you see somebody come in, oh, this is bid'ah, y'all not on the sunnah, disrespecting, taking over your place. How many of you seen this? Come on, let's be honest. And when there was no one to challenge them, it was fine. It was fine. But soon as the Ash'ari, among them, some learned and some stood up, now there's a problem. Right? But when they was pushing their weight around, it was no problem, no issue. Don't say anything. Just go duck and hide, right? Let's be honest. And sometimes we have to be honest. It's not like we don't know. We do know. So when there is the response, it's just backing the one who has been oppressive, the one who has been unjust, backing them up. That's it. Backing them up. and allow for people to learn Islam in a historic, global manner with an unbroken chain of narration and to feel honored by that. That's the job we're doing. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less in terms of creed. And this idea that we're teaching some advanced tenets of faith, let me tell you the hypocrisy of this stuff. They're taking the people and they're teaching them details. And then after saying that, say we ignorant. Then if we ignorant and we're low-level imams, how are we going to be teaching people advanced aqidah? And we don't know in the first place, according to you. That doesn't make sense. We're teaching people advanced aqidah that they don't need to know, that should be only discussed by scholars, but we're unlearned. So how can we do that? Can anyone explain that one to me? Right? How can you explain something you don't know? And be effective to the point that you got to warn people that we're giving you advanced aqidah. That don't make sense. It doesn't. And by the way, I studied advanced aqidah, and we don't even talk about it. I studied advanced aqidah, and we don't even talk about it. And you know, let me share stuff. And I don't want to get on my Latino Azhari brother, but like, cut the cap. Seriously. I mean, we have our own way. We understand our way of talking. Cut the cap. You capping, bro. Listen, you mentioned scholars that most of the people don't even know who you're talking about. So you mentioned Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. May Allah have mercy on him. That's one of the highest intellectuals in our time when he was alive. Ain't nothing basic about his books in creed. Nothing. These books are for advanced doctors and professors. And you're talking about what he said. He don't even teach basic level creed. He's a doctor at the highest level of Islamic scholarship when he was alive. So what are you talking about? Sheikh Hassan al-Shafi'i. He's one of the foremost mutakallimun, scholars of theology in Azhar's scholarship today. If you see the books that he comment on and edit, these are advanced books in theology. Advanced, super advanced. He's not talking to common people. Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayer, you mentioned him. He's talking with government leaders. I used to be in his house, and you would see in his sessions, you go in his library and see the books that's in there. These are not basic stuff. This is advanced stuff he's talking about. He's not talking about the 13 attributes or 20 attributes. That's not what they're talking about. These are scholars. So you trying to act like we're talking about the same thing. We're not even touching the subjects they talk about. And you know that. So why are you conflating the issues, as they say? You know daggone well that those scholars don't talk about this stuff. They researchers. They ain't talking about the basic belief of a Muslim. They assume you already know this stuff. They're not talking about it. So for you to be acting like name dropping, like you're talking about people who any of us really even know. And I happen to know all three of them. So I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, You sat in their classes. Are they talking about this stuff? No. Do you see kind of books you're talking about? Sheikh Hassan al-Shafri. You see go do a YouTube search and look up Sheikh Hassan al-Shafri al-Azhari and see the classes he's talking about. He's not talking about this basic stuff. He's talking about real advanced Islamic theology. That's his field. So the name dropping don't even fit in context. What are you talking about? It doesn't even fit. These people are doing worldwide conferences with major scholars all around the world. Do you think they're talking about the basic attributes of Allah? Come on, bro. These people are traveling all over the world. Conferences of the foremost scholars in the world. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about advanced issues. So they don't even come in this conversation. For you to go listen to those advanced lectures and pick what you want and then bring it to the basic Muslim as if it's a proof is foolish. It don't even make sense. They're not even talking to the common people in their countries. Like, they're not even talking to the common people in their own countries. And you're going to bring their scholarly discourse to common American Muslims? In their own countries, they're not talking to common Arabs. They're not even talking to educated Arabs. They're talking to scholars. What are you talking about? And then try to act like we're talking about the same thing. Do y'all understand my point? Let me give you an analogy so you see. It's like talking about the top professors in Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Cambridge, Oxford, and listen to their discussions. Do you think those scholars in those high institutions of learning are talking about what the guys are talking about in the local mosque and discussing it the way they discuss it? Come on. They're in forms of research, scholarly research. It's no comparison. It's not the same thing. It's talking about different stuff. And so to have a discussion like that, we're not having that kind of discussion. We're not even talking about what they talk about. We talking about the stuff they learned when they was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. The stuff that a Muslim should know as a kid, as a child. That's the stuff we're talking about. Where these things should have been cleared up for a child. All the books that we're teaching are books that should have been learned before you became pubescent or directly after you became pubescent. The problem is we never had teachers to teach us these things. So therefore, we're grown adults learning things that we should have learned as a youngster in Islam. The basic beliefs of Islam, we're learning that right now. And we must learn it because we should have learned it, but no one gave it to us. The one who doesn't have a thing can't give it. So I hope y'all follow me in that issue. It's very important. So we're never going to stop talking about this because it's something that we have to teach to all morally responsible individuals. That means we're never going to stop. So the concept that we're not going to talk Aqidah, whoever's trying to tell us that, we already know this person's deviated from the creed of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah just by you telling don't talk about Aqidah. It's an obligation. What are you talking about? Don't talk about it, especially the stuff we're talking about. It's impermissible. It's unlawful for a Muslim not to know it. We have to talk about it. let me pause there for a minute. Please answer me. Do you realize the things we talk about is obligatory for every Muslim to know? I'm talking, whenever we're talking about Aqidah, the stuff we're talking about, every Muslim is a personal obligation that they know it. We don't talk about anything else. Do you realize that? I just want you to see what somebody trying to tell you. Don't even learn your religion. Okay, what do we talk about? Right? One of the things we talk about is that Allah does not resemble his creation, and clarifying what that means. Who would say that it's permissible to be confused, to be unclear, if there is a resemblance between Allah and his creation? Who's going to say, okay, the Muslim doesn't need to know if Allah is resembling his creation, resembles his creation or not? Who's going to say that? So if the person is confused about that, then that needs to be clarified. And here's my point. I want to give you a point. Thank you, nobody. Let me answer that question. Listen to this question. I'm going to just give you my point. Sheikh, is it obligatory to believe that Allah is not in a place? Someone is asking that question. And I'm not being like hard on my brother or nobody, or I don't know who nobody is, a brother or a sister. I'm not being hard on the person. Just listen to the question. People actually want to know that. That's something that is known by consensus of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Assalamu alaikum. It's haram to believe other than that. Not only is it obligatory to believe that Allah is not in a place, it's unlawful to believe something else. So if you don't know the difference, you have a serious problem. Anyone, whoever it is. So, and there are people telling you that that's not the belief in Islam. Allah is above his throne. Literally. You got to figure that one out. You can't be unlearned about that. You can't just say, I don't know. I don't know what to believe about Allah. You can't say that. You have to figure it out. And that would entail someone explaining to you why Allah exists without a place, right? And let me explain to you quickly why Allah exists without a place and why it's obligatory to believe. Number one, if you learned Aqidah first, the proper creed of Islam, those attributes that all of those scholars that were mentioned, all of them mention these attributes. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed with al-qidam, the attribute of not having a beginning. That means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existed and there was nothing else. He's al-awwal. He's the first, right? That means he has no beginning to his existence. And everything other than Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, everything other than Allah has a beginning. Only Allah does not have a beginning. Now, some of those people who misunderstand, they think there's creations that don't have a beginning, which is not permissible to believe. Listen, some of us are too sensitive to hear the word kufr. So for the purpose of understanding at one level, at the basic level, let's leave that to the side for a minute just to get you to have the correct belief, right? That's a detail. Let's just get to what do Muslims supposed to believe. Muslims don't believe there are creations that are without a beginning like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muslims don't believe that. That's not a belief in Islam. That's a deviation from the proper creed. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in Al-Bukhari, in his Sahih, the Prophet said, "Kan Allahu wa lam yakun shay'un ghayru." Allah existed and there was nothing else. Nothing else. That means no throne, no kursi, no chair, no heaven, no earth, no humans, no jinn, no devils, no souls, no spirit, only Allah. Kan Allahu wa lam yakun shay'un ghayru. Only Allah. Everything other than Allah is a creation. Some of those creations are from the unseen world. Some of those creations are from the sensory world, from the physical world. They're all creations. Some of those creations you perceive with your senses. Some of those creations you don't perceive with your senses. Some of those creations you may know their complete reality. Some of those creations you don't. But all of them are creations. Everything other than Allah is a creation. So Allah existed. Place, time are creations. Place is not without a beginning. Time is not without a beginning. That's a basic Islamic belief. So that means Allah existed and there was no place. Is that clear? Is this clear as, come on, let's think here. Allah existed and where there was no place, because place is a creation. Place is not without a beginning. So is time, and so is all the elements that exist in places. They are created things. It's simple. That's simple. That's not like complicated. Now, what will confuse you is when somebody is telling you that places always existed, that the universe is without a beginning, by kind, not by elements. All these details, they're going to have to be clarified and refuted. But the basis of the belief is Allah exists without a beginning, and no one is like that except Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. So that's a simple base. Now you got to explain those verses or hadiths that people are using to have someone believe that Allah is in a place, and then go around asking people that stuff. You need to be clear. So now the Christian, let me just give you an example. So that's brief. I could go over and over on it, right? I can go more, but that's sufficient. And Allah does not resemble the creation. He's attributed with the attribute of al-mukhalafatu lil hawadith, which is indicated from the verse laysa kamithlihi shay, that no thing resembles him. Hence, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is not going to be contained by limits and boundaries as the one who's in a place is. That's our belief in Islam. Basic stuff. But to us, some of us, because of these vile innovations, basic beliefs are being confused in the mind of common people. Right? And this is simple stuff. And nobody, your point, the questions you're making is why I say what I say. I don't understand the wisdom of making something that the Prophet ﷺ never taught a criterion for belief in Allah. There are many details, just this idea of what the Prophet ﷺ taught, right? You don't know what the Prophet taught, obviously. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That means you need to be taught. And this is the belief that has been conveyed from generation to generation to generation from the Salaf. They all understood that Allah exists without a place. They met those who met the Prophet ﷺ, who lived with the Prophet, you think they didn't know what to believe? They conveyed it, right? So my point, not to make it about you, I'm highlighting the point. You're confused, not by Sunnis, not by Asharis and Maturidis, by Wahhabis and Salafis with their ideas. So it needs to be clarified. You have that right that someone tells you at least the difference so you can figure it out, not leave you confused. That's haram. But that's what they would have us say. Don't talk about Aqidah so you can walk around like that. Then that's not fair. That's not, listen, I was the deviant before with a bad belief. I know what that feels like. I can imagine no one telling me. My teacher's not teaching me. I would be still thinking the black man is God. It made perfect sense to me because I ain't know nothing. I didn't know what Islam taught. To me, Islam taught black man's God, white man's devil, blind haired, blue-eyed devil. Made sense to me from where I come from, where I live at. That justified all the white man's atrocities to us. He's the devil. I got it. That ain't Islam. So somebody had to explain, right? Somebody had to teach me. Somebody got to teach us. If they would have remained silent, I would have still been walking around with that stuff. Do you follow my point? So these are examples, and I appreciate you. I mean, we clarify the issue. I hope if you need more, inshallah, we can go over it more. But I'm just saying that's an example of why we need to learn these things. Because we do realize what's out there. They tell us don't call names, but they don't tell Imam Tahawi not to call names, right? Imam Tahawi, the last paragraph of his creed, he called a bunch of names. And they all spread the books calling names. But when it gets to them, don't say our name. Don't say our group. Don't say Wahhabi. Don't say Salafi. Well, why you didn't tell Abu Ja'far, Al-Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, don't say Mushabbiha, don't say Qadariya, don't say Mu'tazila, and all the other scholars who mentioned Murjiya, Jahmiya. And first and foremost, why don't you go back and tell your Saudi scholars stop saying Sufis and Asharis? Because they don't hesitate. How many of you been, let's good point here. How many of you been to Umrah or Hajj? Umrah. Y'all, everybody's taking pictures now. How many been to Umrah here? Please. How many been to Umrah? I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you been to Umrah? So you've been to Umrah, right? Did you notice when you go to Umrah and you go to the prayers, they have these seats set up all around the Prophet Mosque, so also in Mecca, they have these seats, especially in the Prophet's Mosque. You see they have these chairs, and at certain times of prayer, you see some sheikh with his Saudi head covering go sit in that chair. Did you ever notice that? Do you know in those chairs what they telling people? They're teaching in the Prophet's Mosque their Wahhabi belief. That's what they're teaching. I remember sitting in the Prophet's Mosque with my teacher, and we are having a class, and we're listening to this guy called Muslims, Mushrikun, and Kufar, right in the seat in the Prophet's Mosque. I ain't seen none of them get up and say, stop calling Asharis, stop calling names, Sufis. And the sheikh was like, listen to this stuff. And we can't sit and make dhikr without some people feeling though we're getting arrested. But this guy is sitting in that chair calling Muslims kafirs, mushrikun, Asharis, deviant Sufis. Ain't nobody said a word. And maybe because you don't understand Arabic, you don't know what they're saying. But anyone who knows Arabic, go listen to them lectures. Am I lying? Anyone who knows Arabic, go sit in there and listen to that stuff they be saying while you on Umrah taking pictures, and they're calling you kafir, mushrik, all kinds of names, grave worshippers. That's what's happening. Go ask anyone who speaks Arabic and can sit in a session. I did it. I was in there. No one says that. Nobody told them stop. Don't teach that. You're offending Muslims. And then Muslims coming to visit the Prophet ﷺ, coming to make Umrah, coming to make Hajj, coming to give salams to Rasul, coming to pay in a roda, and they got to listen to you with that nonsense. But no one says nothing. Even the ones who say to us, don't do. What do you mean? Aqidah wars, what's that? How many of you have went to just give salams to the Prophet, and you got some Saudi pushing you and get out of shirk, bid'ah, shirk. You can't even say assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. But you don't say nothing to them. But then you come in our cities where that stuff is being bred, and right, and you don't say nothing. But to us, oh, they're making takfir. Takfir, what the heck is that? What do you call that? I'm just saying, be real. I just was listening to Fawzan. Someone's pushing this stuff over the internet. He's talking about the Mawlid, celebrating the birth of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And someone asked him, is it permissible to eat the meat that is prepared for the Mawlid? He said it's haram. They even attacking the halal meat. Nothing is safe. Because the meat was made for an innovation. It was cooked for an innovation, which is an innovation in serving meat for the Mawlid is an encouragement to innovation, so it's haram. What kind of stupid kias is that? Tell me where the Prophet said that. This stuff, you can't make it up. I mean, come on, you can't be serious, are you? Yeah, it was serious. And they spreading that stuff. Show me a hadith that says that one. Or a verse. Oh, no qiyas, no analogy, no extraction except for you. We can't extract rulings from the Quran or hadith, but you can. And some of the most strangest things I've never heard. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. This stuff is laughable. Seriously. But this is what's spreading in our communities, and we don't supposed to say anything. Just be quiet. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I honestly saw that. I'm not joking. I saw the video, then people writing it, and these dudes are putting that stuff up. Like they hate Ahl Sunnah so much that that ridiculous stuff they're passing off as legal religious judgments. And nobody said to him, yo, Sheikh, where your dalil from the Quran and Sunnah for that one? The Prophet never mentioned that. The companions never mentioned that. The Tabi'een never mentioned that. The Atba' Tabi'een never mentioned that. Our great scholars of Hadith never mentioned that. Why y'all didn't say, yo, hold up, Sheikh, where you get that from? I mean, that's some stretching it, ain't it? The meat, that's halal meat, that is served at the Mawlid is haram to eat. I thought you don't make haram what Allah made halal. And according to you, that's worshiping your scholars and your saints. Well, what's that? According to you, their shirk was that they made unlawful or lawful what Allah made unlawful, or unlawful what Allah made, no, vice versa. They made lawful what Allah made unlawful, or they made unlawful what Allah made lawful. Now here comes this one: halal meat that was slaughtered properly, right, by all the sacred law, because I feed someone at the Mawlid, it's haram. Now you can't eat it because now the halal meat is a means to shirk. I think we got the point. Am I right? I mean, all logical, sound mind people, I think we got the point, right? At minimum, we need to explain the correct belief in Islam, right? When this stuff is going on. Really. It's laughable when you think about it. But they'll tell us, be quiet, don't say nothing. And for us, we definitely can't do that. Yo, we was in the nation, we was in Ansars, we was in the Moorish Science Temple as a people. We've had all kinds of stuff reach us. We're not going to be just blind following nobody. We ain't doing that. Not us, not no more. Them days is long gone. We've been through too much as a people. I'm talking about us. You can forget that. We ain't doing it. And that's why many, even your own students of knowledge, are rejecting your stuff. That's why people like Yasser Qadi, as they say, he's changing, because they realize they've been duped. And that don't make you a bad guy. I'm glad you're waking up in some areas. I hope that they wake up in all areas. They realize they've been duped. Think about it. He was the elite of them. He was their poster child. And he's like, man, this stuff don't make sense. I don't believe this anymore. Step by step. Because when you've been, and all of us been in different groups, especially in the Black community, we know it takes a process to overcome sometimes when you've been duped, when you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled. We know that takes time. That should tell you something. Because you was the poster child for them. All of them dudes was walking around making, I wouldn't be caught on a park bench with a deviant. We don't take from deviants. Now they're writing papers. Oh, we can narrate from Ahlul Bidah. That was wrong. That's not true. That's when you've been doing your whole al-Jarh wa Ta'dil mission that you were doing on. All that came. Now all y'all changing that stuff. You don't think we see this stuff? All you graduates from Medina starting to learn and starting to say, man, that's cap. That stuff we learned in school, that's cap. Right? You know it. The more you read, the more you study. Listen, this is what it comes down to. At the end of the day, if you be honest, it comes down to we're right, and everyone who preceded us were deviant, misguided, and if we need to use their works, we'll give them an excuse because of ignorance. Our da'wah didn't reach them yet. That's deep. That's what it boils down to. And if you want to believe that, that's your prerogative. That's your choice. But you can't force that on all the Muslims. If you want to believe that all the Muslims for 1,200 years before your organization came around were deviant, misguided, misunderstood the religion, grave worshippers, idol worshippers, saint worshippers, innovators. If you want to believe that, that's your thing. But you can't compel us to believe that. Like, nah, you can't silence us into believing that stuff. If you follow my point. So I'm gonna pause there. Am I clear? Does anyone not understand what I'm saying? I ain't say, do you agree? Because some people just don't want to agree. Do you understand what I said? Do you hear me clearly? And you understand what I'm talking about? Because I know I can. Some people they don't want to agree because they're still hoodwinked, and that's the way it is. All right, I got that. Did you understand what I said though? You won't mix my words up, right? You won't take from this. Imam Amin said, all Wahhabis are kafir. All Salafis are kafir. You won't take that. I didn't say that. Did you? Did you get that from it? I said the ideas are misguided. They're wrong. They need to be corrected. And there is the possibility that some of those ideas are kufr. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the issue itself. Even if it's innovation, we can't follow it, right? We can't follow it. It needs to be corrected. That's it. And that's not really an argument. Here's my thing. This will be the easiest thing. We don't got to debate. We don't got to fight. We could debate. It could be a Trump and Harris had a debate last night. No blows were thrown. Nobody got beat up. No one was, they had a debate for 2 hours almost. And they walked off with different views. And then they had discussions about it and everything. Nobody got in a fight. Right? These are kuffar. Muslims can't have a civil discussion, a debate that doesn't involve I hate your guts and I want to slander you. We're much more civilized than them. We should be, right? Can we have a talk? Can we discuss our differences? The reason why people don't want to discuss differences because they don't want it to be known what they're really saying. Listen, Allah exists without a place. Simple. You have to follow a madhab. Simple. We believe that the true creed of Ahl Sunnah are the Ash'aris and Maturidis and the nobles among the Hanabila. This is why we say that. This is our belief. Now the person, you can say the same thing. We follow Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. We believe this. We believe that. Ibn Taymiyyah is our Shaykh al-Islam. Whatever. That's what you believe. That's what you believe. Now, it's clear I'm not you, you not me. That's it. Now, where we can come together, we can come together. Where we can't, we can't. That's life. And then we coexist like we do with everybody else in the world. But trying to undermine our belief and our practice by acting like you, us, and then confusing people, we shouldn't stand for that. That's it. You know how many people I see that been affected by Wahhabi's idea, and then we start talking about, they be like, man, they lied to me. I never knew that. I thought, well, I know they always telling stories. Because you're just hearing the voice. This voice is old. These discussions have always existed since those people came with those ideas. In every country, in every place, these points were made. They're not new. You just hearing about them. They're not new. They're not new things. They're very clear, documented, entire volumes of books written about this stuff. It's not new. You're just not aware. So it's the job right? It's the job of people who know. And now let me explain something to you. And lastly, I'm going to close with this. I want to stop, but I got to say this. All of us are victims of a lack of access to an extent to Islamic knowledge and scholarship and references and books. So for us, when someone is wrong or mistaken, we can't take it personal. Sometimes we just don't have access. Sometimes we we need more time to learn, exposure, resources. All of us have been deprived that, some of it intentionally and some of it not so intentionally. So when we make mistakes, when we're wrong, you got to be you got to be kind of open that people can change, and you got to be patient. That don't mean don't speak the issue, but don't take that stuff to heart. So even with brother Yusuf Rios, I'm not mad at him. I ain't walking around with no rocks in my heart about him. I'm like, dude, just need to keep studying, inshallah, open up to real dialogue, don't mind having his ideas challenged, and he'll be all right, inshallah. Ultimately, Allah guides whom he wills. But we're gonna have a conversation, right? But I ain't walking him. If I saw him today, I wouldn't be mad at him. I'd give him a hug and some love and like, come on, man, let's have that conversation. We brothers, let's go get some food. Let's go get no molid food, so you don't have to say is haram. We go to the regular halal stuff, sit down and we kick it. I ain't beat like that. I be around hardcore Salafis, if you don't know it or not, just kicking it. We disagree, but some of my closest people in my life, whom I love, are Salafi, Wahhabi, and you're here, so I'm gonna tell you a joke, right? He probably listening. You don't got to come out on this, right? I did a janaza, someone very close to me, real close. He's Salafi. He came to me at the end of the funeral, after I finished the janaza. He walked up to me because there's a bunch of Salafi people in there, and he walked up to me. He said, "Oh, you ain't gonna give a Wahhabi salams?" I said, I was trying to leave that alone. That's how close we are. He walked up to me and said, "Oh, you ain't gonna give a Wahhabi?" Like he had to bring up Wahhabi because I'm always messing with him. But at the funeral, I'm like, I'm not gonna say that to you, right? But we disagree, and that's it. And we'll keep talking. He'll come to me, I grab books out my library. We cool. He come to the masjid, help out, cook, dude. It's cool. We disagree. Inshallah, we will agree one day. We ain't gonna kill each other over it. And I ain't gonna stop talking to you because I realized I asked him one day, was a serious question. I said, how did you become a Wahhabi? He said, you was in jail, and that was all it was around. We homies. We used to run the streets together. I said, and I was gone. I said, how did you become a Wahhabi? He said, you wasn't around, and that was all was available. That's what we thought Islam was. And you were gone. And now, after years of that, but he don't buy that hardcore, don't talk to Imam Amin, he's a deviant, Ash'ari Sufi. He don't listen to none of that stuff. Right? So don't think I don't have the same thing you got. We live in Atlantic City. It's Wahhabis. It exists. we deal with each other. I know Wahhabis who were learning with me. And then as I'm an old head, they go with the young boys and they became Wahhabi. I mean, this is the life we live. I don't hate you. We live in the same, we can coexist. And whenever you want to talk, we can talk. They just don't talk to me. Right? But we'll go in and what's up? How you feeling, brother? I love you. Because honestly, most of us don't have a dog in this fight. Really, we don't. This is somebody else's fight. We inherited their stuff. This is not us. I'm not walking around filthy, stinking Wahhabi. That's not how I move. I will speak the truth. I will talk about the issue. I'm known for that. But I ain't walking around. I don't do that. That's not me. You got me wrong. You got me totally confused. We're going to have the talk. I will. So yeah, that is me. I will go at it in a minute. Not in a bad way. We're going to talk. But I'm not walking around with rocks in my heart. I'm a Sufi. We can't be like that. Like, right? Sufi, we soft. Right? So y'all got my point. It's all good. Wahhabis come in Masjid Muhammad. I don't bother them. I don't. They come in, they chill. That's it. As long as you ain't starting no trouble. If you start that stuff, we're gonna have a talk. It ain't going nowhere else but a discussion. And they don't want that discussion, right? Nobody gonna jump on you, no one's gonna assault you, no one's gonna curse you out. We're gonna have a talk. So you can come in there and say that, but we're gonna answer. But it ain't gonna be a fight. It ain't gonna be no violent. We can go get some halal meat and sit down and talk. We can go to the restaurant and just sit down and kick it for hours. And you can come back tomorrow and the next day. That's not our style. So stop that fake narrative that we are some hostile people. Right? That's not us. Really, you're projecting. That's your stuff. You're not like that. And some of the hardcore imams of the Salafi who know me, they'll tell you, nah, he not like that. Y'all mistaken. He'll disagree and he'll say it. He don't bite his tongue. But he ain't walking around like on all that. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't be like that. So don't be like that. That's my advice. For us, we do got issues in addition to these that we need to work together with. So don't be hard-hearted. Speak the truth. Stand on your position. But you ain't got to be hard-hearted. That's someone else who's trying to control us, make us enemies for their own purpose. Don't buy that crap. Right? Right? For real. Somebody making us from some other country, barking orders down to us and making us enemies. Man, don't listen to that stuff. Man, get out of here. Right? Seriously, don't do that. Because it doesn't serve us anyway. That means they're going to take all our money, take all our stuff, take it back to their countries, build their mansions, build their big houses, come back here, have us fight, take our resources, and go in the suburbs and do their stuff. Man, you'd be a fool to fall for that stuff. I mean, they got us with it before, and they probably still getting some of us, but we should woke up to that stuff by now. I'm not fighting your fight. Get out of here. Kick rocks, as we say. I'm not fighting your fight. I'm not. We're going to speak the truth. We're going to learn the knowledge, but I'm not fighting your battle so you can benefit and we suffer. Get out of here. Ain't nobody doing that. You understand what I'm saying? So don't be like that. May Allah reward you all. Barakallahu bikum. This was my reflections. This was my thoughts, right? And listen, I'm open for a discussion. It don't got to be hostile. It don't got to be all that. You can talk. I can talk. You can share your thoughts. I can share my thoughts. You can share your evidences. I'll share my evidences. That's it. At the end of the day, we're trying to find the truth. What are you scared of? You scared to find the truth? You scared? I don't want to learn. No. What kind of human being are you? If you're wrong, you should want to learn. I'm mistaken in these areas. Show me why I'm mistaken. That's it. It's not that deep. Just want to go to paradise, huh? As they say, just want to go to Jannah. That's it. Ain't nobody walking around with no hard feelings towards you. But if you got hard feelings, I got to protect myself, right? I got to, you have the right to not let you harm me. But other than that, I'm not going to harm you. That from you bringing it the other way. And then, got to do what you got to do. So be nice. Be brothers. Disagree, but disagree, understanding that we're not bad people necessarily. Sometimes we just don't know. We just wasn't told. We just didn't have access. We were given a party line. We were tricked. That's real. And I can admit it, it happened to me. That's why I'm the way I am. Seriously. I was tricked. And usually when the one finds out they was tricked, they be the hardest ones, right? Against the stuff that they were tricked about, right? So it happened to me. I understand. It happened to Yusuf Rios. Yusuf Rios knows he was tricked by the Wahhabis. That's why he's trying to figure it out. It's a bother for him. It's like, man, can't we just be Muslim and get along? But he don't know how to do that. And it's frustrating. I understand that. I understand that dilemma. But you still got to figure it out. You can't just throw in the towel and say, it don't matter. Yes, it does matter. You got to figure it out. That's it. And that's a personal obligation. You have to figure this stuff out. That's your test from Allah. Figure it out. Work hard. All right, inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow. Let me remind you, lastly, I'm done. Promise, I'm done. Of our upcoming Aqidah a comparative approach, where we're going to go over all these issues, inshallah, in a series of in-person seminars. Please register. I know all y'all plan on coming and showing up. Don't kill me. Like, come on, man. Help me out here. At least let me know you coming so I can prepare the food. Because you know that it's frustrating. You're going to put me last minute. It's 40, 50, 60 of you. You didn't register. And now I got to scramble. Come on, don't do me like that. We're supposed to be people, family, 3453 family. Don't do me like that. Register. Right? Register. And if you don't got the thing, at least send a notice that you're coming at info@mmacinc.org, right? Like send an email. Listen, I'm coming, but I didn't register yet. Right? Come on, give me a break. Y'all know how y'all do. Don't do me like that. We're supposed to be family. It's really because you know we try to take care of you. So if I don't know you coming, then you show up and I'm preparing for 30, 40 people and 50, 60 people show up, it makes a hardship on me. Don't do that. So if you can't, you're going to say, I'm going to pay at the door. Okay, that's fine. But at least let me know you're coming so I can prepare, so I can host you well. May Allah reward you. So that's going to be September the 28th, right? All day long seminar, and we're going to go in depth. This will be in depth. It's going to be names, it's going to be scholars, it's going to be books, it's going to be references. So this is going to be a little bit above the basics. Nobody, where are you from? So I can get someone to help you. Where are you from? Where do you live? Quick, so I can get out of here. Nobody. You're on YouTube, that's why I'm asking you. Where are you from? Where do you live? I want to get someone to answer all the questions and help you. I don't have the time, like online, and I can't, but I do want to help you. So I'll get someone to help you. Where are you at? DC. Go see brother Furkan. See this brother? Furkan, get that brother Nobody. Oh, I know Nobody. He's like Ethiopian or Somalian mixed African. Go to Furqan. He's at Masjid al-Islam. Go visit him and let him work with you and talk with you. That way, y'all can share stuff. He's a good brother. So you got it, nobody? Furqan, you got this brother, nobody? Nobody, that's Furqan. Furqan, that's nobody. Y'all both in DC. Get together and share and help each other out. He got a lot of questions and he needs some stuff cleared out. Help the brother out. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I love y'all all. May Allah reward you, increase you, and make you winners in this world and the hereafter.